Hey everyone, welcome back. In the last video we started with our power-ups and we finished with our health power-up. Now I want to do something that I hope will be kind of cool and fun for you guys, which is the speed power-up. So we're actually going to work with one of the standard assets packs that comes packaged with Unity, and we're going to use a fire particle system. And I was thinking it'd be kind of funny if when the hero picks up the speed power-up that she leaves behind a trail of fire after her. So what we're going to do is we're going to have this fire particle system leave a trail behind her and increase her speed probably about 2x. Okay, so we'll see how this goes. And so what we're going to need to do to start off is come up here to assets and import package, and we're going to say particle systems. And so if you didn't know, okay, so I'm going to say import here. So if you didn't know, here in the assets, we actually have access to quite a few professional assets created by Unity for you to use. You have things like cameras, characters, effects, environment, prototyping, utility of vehicles. Here in the vehicle you can get there's a car, there's a pretty sweet futuristic fighter jet, so play around with those and check them out. But I'm going to come down here to our standard assets and open this up and open the particle systems and look in the prefabs. And the prefab that we want is this wildfire one. Okay, so just to show you what this is kind of look like, I'm going to grab the wildfire prefab, and I'm just going to drag it right onto the hero, and then I'm gonna press play. I'm gonna maximize and press play. So I'm gonna start moving, and whoo, there's a trail of fire that trails after us, and I think that's pretty cool. So we're going to and then after a while it dissipates and dies down. So this is what we're going to have work when we pick up our speed power up. Okay, so let's get started. We are going to create our speed power up. I'm going to create a new empty game object, rename it speed power up. We are going to add our components. We need a sphere collider, we need it to be a trigger, we need a rigid body, we're not using gravity, and we need a script. So I'm going to say new script, and we're going to call this speed power up. And then I'm going to open that up. All right, and just like the health power-up, we are going to need reference to our game object player. So I'm going to say game object player, and we're going to need a reference to the player controller script. That's where we're going to put our public function. I'm going to say player controller. Okay, and then in start we are going to say player is equal to game manager dot instance dot player, and our player controller is equal to player dot get component, and the component that we want is player controller. And we are going to also register this power-up. So we're going to say game manager.instance.register power-up. All right, and that looks good. We don't need anything in our void update, so I'm going to get rid of that. And we can then use our same on trigger events. We're going to say void on trigger event. And that accepts a collider, and we're going to call it other, and if the other dot game object is our player, then we are going to call our our speed power up function, which we have not yet created, but we are going to create in player controller. That should be player controller dot speed power up. Okay, and then we are going to destroy the game object after we come into contact with it. So I'm going to save that. Okay, so I'm going to open up our player controller script and write our functions that we need. So what do we need in our player controller? Well, first let's take a look at this wildfire prefab that we have added. Okay, we've attached it to our hero. So first we need a way to reference it, and it comes automatically with a fire tag. So I think we'll just go ahead and use that fire tag to grab it, and we're going to start out with it disabled, right? So we don't want it turned on immediately when we start out. So we're going to start with it disabled. So I'm thinking we get a reference to this game object via its tag, and then when we power up, then we call the function that will enable this game object. All right, so let's go ahead and write that code. Okay, so we are going to need a reference to our to that game object, to the wildfire game object, and I'm going to call it, so it's a game object, and I'm going to call it fire trail. Okay, and then we are also going to need access to its particle systems. So I'm going to say particle system, and we're going to call that fire trail particles. Okay, so now we have reference to those two things that we're going to need. In start, let's go ahead and grab those. So I'm going to say fire trail is equal to game object dot find with tag, and the tag that we are looking for is fire. And I'm going to say as game object. Okay, and then right off the bat here we are going to say fire trail dot set active, set that as false. Okay, so I'm going to save that, and I remembered that we actually want this to start out as enabled, because otherwise we won't be able to use the find with tag. All right, so there it is, and so when it starts we set it to false, so that's good. All right, so now I think we can write our function that is going to be called in our speed power up. So what did we call it? We called it speed power up. Okay, so I'm going to say public void speed power up, and we are going to say start coroutine fire trail. Okay, fire trail routine. Okay, so we're going to call this function the speed power up function from our power up, and that function is going to call a coroutine that we have here in the player controller script. And we're using a coroutine because we're going to be using some timing involved. Okay, so we're going to say IE numerator, and we're going to call this coroutine fire trail routine. And so what do we want to happen? So once we pick up the speed power up, we're going to turn on this cool little particle system. We are going to increase our max speed to 10, and then we're going to we're going to have a timer for how long we can keep going super fast. All right, so I'm going to say fire trail dot set active true. We're going to increase our move speed to 10, and then let's wait, yield return new wait 4 seconds, and I'm thinking maybe 10 seconds of super fast speeds before we turn it off. So we turn it on, we increase our speed, we let us have that speed for 10 seconds, and then we're going to have to turn off our speed. So we're going to set our speed back to our normal. So we're going to set it back to 6. And then we can turn off our fire trail. Set active false. And we're going to have to do a little bit more work here in a second, but I just wanted to show you why. So we turn it off, and let's go ahead and give this a try. So I'm going to drag a speed power up into our scene. And you know what we forgot? We forgot our image. We need a sprite on here. So I'm going to say add component and say sprite renderer. And we need a new image for our speed power up. So open up your assets. Okay, so inside of your assets, you should have a lightning.png. So I'm going to grab that and drag it into our images folder inside of our Unity project. And then for our, so then go into your images folder, select the lightning.png and turn it into a sprite 2D and GUI and apply. That looks good. And then grab our power up, grab our speed power up here, and for the sprite renderer, set that sprite equal to lightning. And hey, there it is. That looks pretty sweet. All right, so there's our speed power up. So I'm gonna save this. Speed power up has our speed power up script, has our sphere colliders, our rigid bodies, our public function is there. We have our coroutine. I think that should do it. So I'm going to save again, and let's run this and see what happens. Okay, so it is currently inactive, and then I'm going to grab it, and nothing happened. So let's see what's going on. Okay, so I made a silly typo mistake in our speed power up script. I said on trigger event. I had said trigger event when I was talking, and that just came out when I was typing. So it should be on trigger enter. All right, so I'm gonna say save that, and let's give that one more go. Press play. And now, hey, there we go. All right, so now we're super fast. We are sending fire out our feet, but you'll see when we ran out of time, fire just kind of went disappeared. Fire just kind of went gone. And I think what we want is a little more subtle degradation of the fire. So let's take a look at the wildfire particle system. And so if we take a look here, we have our start lifetime in seconds. Particles will die when its lifetime reaches 0. And so right now it's set to 8 and 10. And I think we want it to be a little bit, or quite a bit shorter. So we're going to say 1 and 2. This is just a measure of how long the fire remains after we have left. So I'm going to save that and press play and grab this again. And now you'll see that the fire starts receding much quicker afterwards. And that opens the way for what we want to do in our coroutine. Okay, so I'm going to say that's good, save, and then let's open up our player controller script. So with our player controller script, let's check out our fire trail routine coroutine. Okay, so what we want to do is we can't just say firetrail.setActive false and expect a nice die down of our fire. What we need to do is we need to actually interact with the particle system, and I think what we're going to do is we are going to turn off the emissions of the fire particles, so no more new fire particles will come out, but the remaining ones will be able to continue through their life cycle. Okay, so we're going to grab a reference to those fire particles, and we created above a fire trail particles variable, and we are going to set this equal to firetrail dot get component, and this is going to be the particle system. Okay. And so what we got to do is something a little bit roundaboutish, but it's just the way that Unity has set it up. So we have to first create a reference or a variable that is the fire trail particles and the emission. So just to kind of give you some reference, what we're grabbing here, if you come to the particle system and come down here to emission, this is what we are turning off. Emission is emission of the emitter. This controls the rate at which particles are emitted as well as burst emissions. So we're going to turn that off. But first we got to get a reference to it. So var m.emission, and then we're just going to simply say em.enabled is equal to false. Just to run through again what we're doing, we turn it on, we wait for 10 seconds, and then we send back our original speed, and then we're going to turn off the particles, but for a short time. We're going to say yield return new wait for seconds. We're going to wait for 3 seconds, and then we're going to turn it back on. But at this point, we've already set our fire trail dot set active to false. So we're turning the emissions back on so that it's ready for the next time we get the speed power up, but we're turning off the fire trail as a component as a whole. So I'm going to save that, and I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to actually just duplicate the speed power up. So we have 2 of them, and I'm going to open up our scene, and I'm going to drag this one over here, just so we can test how this works. So I'm going to press play, grab one, and we're going to be super fast and running around, and our fire trail quickly turns off after us, and then once we run out, we come back to a quick. All right, so that looks good. The fire trail quickly dies after us. Then if we look inside of our hero on the wildfire component is turned off, as we should hope for and expect. And then once we grab our second, it turns back on. Our emission is back on, and we are shooting fire. All right, we're gonna have this for another 10 seconds, and then let's watch to make sure. Yep. All right, that looks great. Very cool. All right, let's see if we can, let's come over here and grab this heart. Get our health back up. Do we have any other health power up clones? We got one here. That looks good. All right, great. So that is awesome. We can go ahead and drag this speed power up into our prefabs to turn it into a prefab. Then we are going to delete these 2 that are currently in the scene. And then I'm going to open up our game manager here in the game hierarchy, and we're going to swap out the speed power up, which currently had our health power up placeholder. But now that we have our speed power up, I'm going to go back to our game manager, and I'm going to drag in our speed power up into its rightful slot. All right, and then I'm going to save that and press play, and let's see how that goes. So we're going. We got tanker here. Let's see. Oh, we got a health power up here, so I grabbed it. Got another health power up somewhere. Where are you at? Oh, so we got one here and one here. Come on, let's get a speed. Oh, there was a speed power up and a health power up. All right, very cool. So since we're only allotting 4 power-ups throughout the duration of the entire game, I think we need to increase our time between power-up spawn points, or power-up spawns. So under Game Manager, I think we made a serialized field for that, did we not? Actually, it does not look like we did, so we're gonna have to do that in code. So I'm going to come up here to the top of our Game Manager, And we said max power-ups is 4, that's fine. Power-up spawn time. So I'm thinking more like a minute. Now that we know everything's working, we can bump that up to a more realistic time period for when you would expect to get bonuses and power-ups, because you don't want to get all 4 in the first 20 seconds of the game and then not have any of that for the rest of the time. So I'm thinking 60 seconds is okay. And yeah, so now we have our power-ups. We have our health power-up and our speed power-up. And I think it's pretty sweet, especially working with the wildfire particles. I encourage you to check out these other assets. They have some really cool stuff here in the standard assets, particle systems, prefabs. They have some flares. I'm just going to grab some of this stuff and drag it in. They have, I think they had fireworks. Did I see fireworks? Yeah, fireworks. Can I throw that in there? Let's see, an explosion. All right, and then I'm just gonna run this, and boom, we got some. You can see some fireworks here in the scene, shooting up in the sky. So a lot of cool stuff that you can enhance your game using some of these assets, and. So that's some cool stuff, guys. You got some power-ups, and now you know everything you need to know to make your own power-ups. So figure out what you want to do. Maybe you want to increase your damage when you pick up a power-up, or freeze all of your enemies, or something. Whatever it is, you can do it. You have the power now. So go ahead and let your creativity run free. And in the next videos, we are going to finish up our game. And so we're pretty much done here. So we will see you in the next one.